up, ref?
He told us to meet him here at 12:35.
Okay, I'm going to go to the cadet bookstore.
Is it inside?
It's right inside here.
All right.
We have to go down.
Okay, April 11th, 2011. The coming here for the USMA chapter of the International Sociology Honor Society induction ceremony. It's going to take place on the second floor. Okay, it is a beautiful day. It's been a cold winter, and the trees are not yet budding up here. I guess they're just budding over here. I'm going to go inside and check out the bookstore. Oh man, look at this Medal of Honor recipient. Davenport Bridge, Virginia. Abraham Kearns Arnold. He was a courageous man. Okay. Computer Science Building. Huh. Okay. Oh, they did this, I think, very recently. Harvard Lee Award for Excellence in Mathematics. Another Excellence in Mathematics. Wow, amazing. Let's see what we got here. Omar Bradley Award. Also Excellence in Mathematics from an Systems Engineering. This is okay, I think we have stumbled across the bookstore.
Come back here for the time.
I'm sure the Victor will love some of this stuff.
Oh, really?
I won't get to do this very much.
To Manhattan Beach?
Okay.
That's a big place.
I only got about 40 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the guest speaker in here and
Yes,
some other
it's like a
folks.
sprawling
Tori, Ankermeyer, there you go, buddy. We have to get you on here officially. One of the directors of the 100th Night Show. Now, where are you from,
still
Tori?
like in your neighborhood. Yeah.
Oh, really? You folks get here very often?
So have you met Al Peachy? This is our speaker, Mike Nilsen. He's one of the inductees today.
Excellent. We are from Brooklyn. So that's the issue. And in fact, I've met some folks from Iowa who have a farm. Well, I think I met them on
Yes.
our day or a day.
Get your parents on there.
And they said they just can't ever come. You know?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, don't get a DUI.
Right, exactly.
She was like,
I want you to make sure.
okay, all right.
All right.
Good. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yeah, there's only 2 home meets, I think.
Now, are you you're a student, obviously?
Yes.
What year?
What's the class first day?
Where are you from?
Cleveland.
Okay, nice.
Don't worry about it.
Okay,
Just tell your
here we
whole
go.
life story.
Here
Your
we go.
mom will see it.
Here we go. Here we go. Right, yeah. from Cleveland, Ohio.
Tell us.
Excellent.
Answered their question.
Famous Cleveland Browns.
You'll be there.
Cleveland Browns.
There we go. Okay, so this is for your mom.
Excuse me.
There we go, Colonel.
Oh my God.
These generic opens.
Yeah.
Whoever shows up.
Everybody's family has some of these
Kind
different.
of a chance to stretch.
Right?
Yeah, I know, right? It's particular, it's a wonderful attribute of my family to document everything.
So this has been an unusual experience, I have to tell you. This whole West Point thing was never, ever planned.
Very lucky.
My father was in the military only because he was drafted. That was it.
Well,
I'm an engineering graduate from Columbia. That's where I met my wife.
Oh, this is the flag that was...
So I do this to entertain myself.
I learned that, was it your brother or her brother that was a student here?
Yes, her brother.
Yeah, okay.
Joey. Yep.
Yeah, right.
83 grad. Played on the football team. Yep, that was... Okay, so let me not waste all my film. Okay, the guest speaker today, I just finished speaking to Mr. Petrie. And here is his background.
Hi, how are you? First Kate.
Sarah and
Good to meet you.
then
Hi, Brianna.
good, how are you?
Are you getting an award?
As creepy as that sounds, I really enjoy people watching. But then learning about life.
Oh, what? Not the first time. That's not the first time I've felt themselves and my partner
with this ceremony. So let me begin first of all by saying hello, and for those of you who are not from the area, welcome. And it looks like we have a few of those, and if I could, I'd just like to recognize first of all the Nilsens who made the trip from Brooklyn, New York. Ma'am, if you could please stand up and be recognized. Appreciate that. And how about a round of applause for them? My name is Colonel Irving Smith, and I am the Sociology Program Director here at West Point in the Department of Behavioral Science and Leadership. And we do this induction ceremony every year, and it's a pretty special time for us. And this year, like every other year, is special because it adds to the honors that our sociology cadets and faculty get in our major. And this is our 11th annual induction ceremony for Alpha Phi of New York, as we are known. And in the past 10 years, we've inducted 13 faculty and 42 cadets. Today, we'll add one more faculty member and an additional 6 cadets to what is now referred to as the long teal line. And so we do have a couple of AKD members in the audience. Could you please raise your hands? Thank you very much. And so the agenda for today is pretty simple. I'll make a few comments about AKD. I'll introduce our guest speaker for today. He'll provide some remarks, and then we will award our new AKD members. And so Alpha Kappa Delta derives its name from the first letters of the 3 Greek words that together signify the society's goal. To study humankind for the purpose of service. The purpose of AKD is to promote human welfare through the association of a fellowship group interested in developing scientific knowledge that may be applied to the solution of social problems. AKD was founded in 1920 at the University of Southern California by Dr. Emery Bogardus. In the following year, he invited other sociology departments to establish chapters in Alpha Kappa Delta. Our chapter, known as Alpha Phi of New York, was founded in 2001 as one of slightly over 500 chapters with thousands of members. Initiation requirements into AKD include a declared sociology major or demonstrated serious interest in sociology, a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better, and in the top 35% of one's class. And all of our initiates meet those requirements this year. I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, whom I met in 2007. And our meeting was kind of serendipitous. We were trying to develop a service learning project, and we could think of no better place than Louisiana, and New Orleans in particular, for service. It was an area that had been ravaged by Hurricane Katrina. And as we started to call around to try and figure out how we could get there and how we could get our cadets and faculty involved, one name kept coming up at every turn, and that was Mr. Al Petrie, who is our guest speaker today. I've handed out a bio which is on your seats if you take a look at it. And so Mr. Al Petrie, as you can see, is a pillar of his own community. He runs his own business, but more importantly for us today is that he's really made a difference in not only his community, but the lives of our cadets. And I would say, in some respects, for all West Pointers. He set an excellent example for our cadets to follow. He's not only a philanthropist, but he's also an individual who really cares about everything that he does and very passionate. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Al Petrie.
Thank you, Irvin, and it's a real pleasure and particularly an honor for me to be here today. We've developed quite a relationship with West Point over the last 5 years, and it means a lot to me to be able to come up here and to be able to show you all the results of what that partnership has meant to the city of New Orleans, and particularly to our neighborhood, and to me personally as well, too. So what I'm going to try to do today is say, how has this partnership we formed between our neighborhood and West Point taught us, and I think the cadets as well, the value of leadership, organization, and commitment. Give you a little background so you kind of get a perspective of what we were going through in New Orleans after Katrina. But 80% of the city of New Orleans flooded from Katrina. So it was something that it didn't matter how rich, how poor, how involved, how uninvolved you were in the community, you were impacted. That picture up in the right-hand corner shows you just how bad it was. And if you look over here, when you see that dark red area, that's Lake Pontchartrain, the gray area. And you see the dark red all the way to the left. That is our neighborhood. So even though we weren't the lower ninth ward, which made a lot of the publicity, our neighborhood had just as much of a problem as what they did, in the sense that we had over 10 feet of water in our neighborhood for over 3 weeks. And when something like that happens, the impact is pretty amazing. So to give you a little bit about our neighborhood, where we were right before Katrina. We were a pretty well-established middle-class neighborhood. We weren't rich and we weren't poor. And we were about 20 minutes from the French Quarter, so we were pretty much in the heart of the city. There were about 7,000 households in our neighborhood, and every one of those particular lots had a house on it at that time. So we were, like I said, a mature neighborhood, and the average age of our people that lived there was probably in the mid-40s, but about a third of those people were over 60 years old. And these demographics, as I go through a little more detail, will show you just how much of an impact that had on our neighborhood and our recovery. To kind of personalize this a little bit, this is my home in New Orleans before Katrina, and what you're seeing here is what it looked like after the storm. It's a little hard to tell, but the water line for that, if you look at those windows on the first floor where the air conditioning is standing out, if you go about a foot above that, that's how high the water was. So this wasn't like 2 or 3 feet, this was 10 feet of water, and it sat in our homes for quite a while. And this is what our yard looked like on the side of it, where when the waters came through, this is what our living room looked like, this was our garage, and our den and dining room. So when you think about it, 7,000 people in 7,000 houses in my neighborhood all looked just like me. So there was no house at all within Lakeview that did not get totally devastated. And so, and this happened, you know, in September of 2000, August, September of 2005. The first thing that we knew we had to do was to get organized. I'm part of what's called Lakeview Civic Improvement Association, and we were one of the largest and oldest community associations in the state of Louisiana before Katrina. And the good thing is that we had officers, we had organization, and we kind of said, okay, at least we know the people in our neighborhood, and we need to now figure out how are we going to recover from this. because we knew that every one of us was significantly impacted. So that we were very fortunate because within about 3 or 4 months after Katrina, we had 2 different groups of people who came to New Orleans to visit us to share with them their experiences that they had in similar disasters. We had a delegation that came from California that dealt with their communities after the wildfires they had back 15 years ago. And then we had a group from Covey, Japan, that at their own cost flew all over to New Orleans to meet with us and actually came back 3 different times. And they wanted to come in and share with us what they went through and the things that they learned from their experience to try to help us to figure out what we needed to do ourselves. And that meant a whole lot to us. And one of the things that this you're seeing here is an organizational structure that we copied from the people in California that had come and share their ideas. And so what we try to do is say, okay, how can we best take our talents that we have as individuals and use those to help our community to come back? And you're going to see over here in the second group, on the group B, you see me down there for neutral grounds. And neutral grounds is a term we use in New Orleans for our meetings. And before Katrina, I was on the board for Lakeview Civic, in charge of green space, which basically meant I called to make sure that the city cut the grass. So there wasn't a whole lot that I had to do of a physical nature at all, but we used that knowledge that we had gathered in the past and tried to use that to help us to get organized to figure out what we were going to have to do for our neighborhood. At the same time, another organization, grassroots organization, got created in our area called the Beacon of Hope. And the Beacon of Hope was formed by the wife of the fellow who was in charge of the Superdome at the time of Katrina. And one day, if y'all ever want to hear a really good pair of speakers, we need to have them come up one time and talk about it, because Doug was a person who interacts with the NFL, he interacts with the basketball league, all these people in setting up the events at the Superdome. But he actually stayed at the Superdome, and his wife, who lives in our neighborhood as well, stayed at the Superdome for 5 days after Katrina. And so all the horror stories you saw on TV, he was the guy in charge of the dome at that point, and he had to deal with all the calamities that were there. And to be honest, both of them were concerned that they couldn't get out of there alive because it was so bad. But as a result of that experience, Denise made a promise that if she got out of the dome alive, she was going to do something with her life, and that was to create the Beacon of Hope. So it's pretty amazing because you had Lakeview Civic that was focused on neighborhood type of issues, and you had the Beacon of Hope that her role that she wanted to create was how to help people. So we did the neighborhood, she was working with the individuals and the families of them, what do we do to try to recover from an individual standpoint? And what they really got started initially doing was volunteer coordination. So keep in mind, we were a neighborhood that typically helped others in the past, but suddenly we needed a lot of help ourselves. And we were learning how to do that. At the same time, Denise and Beacon of Hope set up that organization to try to figure out a way to utilize all these volunteers that were coming into New Orleans to help. So I was already friends with Denise before the storm, and so we had a group in July of 2006 from the Southern Baptist community that contacted me because they knew I was in charge of green space and said, now we've got about 40 volunteers coming in for a week in July, which is not the best time to come to New Orleans, but they were coming in and wanted to do a project. And this is an area that's just a block from where I live, and it's on our street called Harrison Avenue, which is a commercial district. That this was like a little mini park that we had in Lakeview that was totally devastated. You can see this is before we did anything there. Had about 6 foot of weeds everywhere. This one was a lush, beautifully landscaped, lit at night kind of park. And it looked so bad, it was like, this was like the epitome of everything that was wrong that happened in Lakeview. So I said, well, you know, if we can use these volunteers to at least clean this area up, that will be, I think, a significant boost to our community, because keep in mind, for a year, we didn't have power in our neighborhood. So people were just coming back during the day, looking at the devastation, figuring out what they would do with their home, and had to drive past this kind of stuff every time. So we said, you know, if we do something like this, maybe this will be kind of that idea of we do something nice on a physical basis, maybe it'll make people feel better. And it took us about, they were there for a week, and all we did was clean it up. We got such positive response, we said, okay, let's see if we can go out and raise the funds to replant. So thanks to companies like Shell Oil and Tidewater and other energy companies in our area, we got the funding to be able to replant. And this is what it looked like about 6 months after we had done the cleanup. So you can see it turned something that was just horrible into something much better. So here we were, we had started with one block in Lakeview. We saw the kind of reaction we got from people where, I guess I didn't fully realize the impact that it was going to have, but people viewed that cleanup and those new plants as a sign of life, and that maybe something really could be done because everybody was so devastated from this. We had such poor leadership in our city, from city government, that we said, you know, maybe if we start trying to do things on our own, this will help us to get this recovery kind of kicked off. So the very first project, which was basically 2 blocks, worked very well, but we had 8 miles of green space in Lakeview that we were facing to try to do something with. Initially, we thought the federal government or the state would somehow help us, but there was no money to be able to do that. So we knew the cost to fund this was going to be pretty high. We didn't even know how much it was going to be. But we said, we want to get after this because if we can continue to show this progress and the signs of life, we think that this will help our community to say, yes, we are going to come back and rebuild. Because keep in mind in Lakeview, nobody was able to go back in their homes. So everybody had to make a conscious decision to move back. It wasn't like you were gone for a couple of days and you came back and decided you're going to stay. You were gone, and you had to go through a lot of effort to be able to come back. And it was pretty amazing because when we were trying to figure out what do we do, that was when we had that contact that Irving talked about earlier, which is where at the same time we were trying to figure out how do we get this moving ahead, West Point was looking at a way to try to get involvement in our state, in our city. So we created something along with Irving called Operation Sudden Impact. And he contacted us in, this was mid-January, and we had about 6 or 8 weeks to put this whole thing together. And needless to say, it was a very big project to go to West Point for ourselves, because Colonel Smith had to get the permission to be able to get people from here down there for something that probably had never been done before. I was able to get permission from the city to allow us to go onto public space and do this as individuals as opposed to through the city process. We needed to raise about $75,000 to do the work that we wanted to initially get done. We had the logistics of getting cadets to come into our neighborhood, which still had a lot of without power, without typical living accommodations, and figure out how can we get all of this to work and get it done in about 8 weeks. Plus we had to get a lot of other people besides myself involved to participate with this, and Beacon of Hope worked very closely with us, as did Lakeview City. The good news is that despite a lot of trials and tribulations, it got done, and our goal was far exceeded. We originally wanted to try to do about a mile of green space, and we almost doubled that in the 7 or 8 days while they were there. And I've got a few pictures just to show you of us all working together out there. Again, we even have a little logo made up for our project, and this is when we were doing some of the medians. That's what that was going to be before and after shot. This is another area on the same boulevard. Just amazing to see the difference that did. And we just kept working on it. So what did we learn from that experience? First of all, you all forced us to learn how to be self-confident. You gave us the confidence that we needed to be able to say, we can do these kind of things. You know, that's one of the wonderful things about service is that if you do it right, the people who are being affected as well as the people who are helping can get as much out of the project. And Irving and I will argue at different times who got more out of it. Did we, which we think we did, or you, which you all think you all did too at West Point. But you know, one of the things that you all did for me personally is at the end of that first meeting, and keep in mind this has happened for 4 years in a row now. That first year, y'all gave me one of the books that you all use up here, which is Leadership Lessons from West Point. And I read that book immediately, and now everyone who becomes president of our association, like I was in 2008, they have to read that book. Because that book, even though it may be common sense to a lot of people, seeing it written and some of the concepts that it has in there are very important. And one of the most important one there that I saw was authentic leadership. And authentic leadership is all about leaders have to be fully engaged in the process, or else the people who are there are not going to take interest in it. And that is especially true when you've got a volunteer project, because we could easily come up with the projects we want done and just say, okay, volunteers, go do it and we'll check on you later. But we took the approach that we wanted to be fully engaged in that process because it taught us how to do things, it also made us much more appreciative of the work that was being done because we were part of it. Organization is the second lesson that we learned, and that is, if you can organize it, you can get it done. What we undertook to do was beyond anybody's dream that we could accomplish it, which was initially to do 1 mile and ultimately to do 8 miles of green space restoration. And the commitment that we saw from West Point when they came in town to work with us, despite how hard we had to work to get this done, instilled in us that confidence and that caring that we got from West Point, that if you guys cared enough about us, then we were going to continue this process going. So again, it's hard to describe just this whole feeling, but all I can tell you is that I feel very strongly that that project that we did with you all was a significant reason why our neighborhood came back. Because while it may have been just for a week or 4 years, the fact that we shared that experience and you all taught us so much about leadership, that we then got the confidence to say, okay, that's green space, but we've got a lot of other things we have to do in our neighborhood to help it come back. So I was the president of Lakeview Civic in 2008, the year after the first visit from West Point. And I decided to use some of those lessons that we did to restructure our neighborhood association. Because I think I told you earlier that we were an average age of, say, 45 years old before the storm, and about 30% of our people that were over 65 or over 60 were not going to come back. So if we didn't do something to engage more young people to move into our neighborhood, Lakeview was going to be history. Because we're going to be like some of the other neighborhoods in the city that have struggled to come back because they weren't making a special effort to try to attract young people to move there. So we definitely, we reorganized ourselves. Instead of being just a board of directors for a neighborhood association, we created a network of proactive committees that we got leadership on all those committees like we did with Green Space, which is to have somebody who had a passion for that particular area to organize a group of people that would focus on specific goals to get done and then report into our board. And by doing that, we took it was a 10-member board before Katrina to 180 people that were involved in our recovery. And again, can't underemphasize or overemphasize how much the lessons we learned from that partnership we had with you all about leadership, commitment, and organization had an impact on us. And today, as a result of those efforts, I'm going to show you some before and after pictures now of some of the other houses. This is just to show that this isn't a real upscale, well-to-do neighborhood. You can see that people were making those commitments to come back to our neighborhood, and that today 70% of our neighborhood is now repopulated. We are probably, and we know we are the fastest recovering of the badly flooded areas in New Orleans, and we still credit so much of that to the experience that we had with the cadets that came to from West Point and continue to come to us. And one of the things we did is in October of 2008, we had completed probably 80% of what we wanted to do from a green space standpoint. So we put together, when you all came down to play Tulane in October of 2008, we wanted to rededicate that green space effort and those green spaces in Lakeview to this community effort that was done to redo this. And this is on a plaque that is permanently installed in Lakeview in our main intersections on the corner of Harrison and Canal Boulevard. And this is a group of some of y'all that were here with us this year that we took a picture of us standing beside that plaque. And in there, as you saw, the word says, and particularly the volunteers from West Point that helped us so much in our recovery and continue to make our neighborhood a viable community. So where do we go from here? Part of the reason I'm very happy to be here today is to say, while you all have helped us so much with our recovery, and our neighborhood is very far along, we want to be able to do this for other neighborhoods, not just in New Orleans, but in other communities. So we look at kind of where do we go from here with our knowledge, as well as hopefully this partnership that we've had with West Point. We started with Lakeview. This past year when the cadets came in, we did a planting and volunteer work in a neighborhood called Gentilly, which is a neighborhood immediately adjacent to ours, which is probably the second most recovered neighborhood, but still struggling because of not having quite the same leadership that thank goodness we had in Lakeview. So we want to continue to do projects with them to help them learn the things that we learned. We also want to work with other communities that are faced with natural disasters. We went back in 2009 with a Beacon of Hope to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and did a presentation, sort of like what I'm doing here today, but geared to those people, telling them what can they do themselves to help their community to recover, and how much it has to come from their own commitment and their own leadership, and not waiting for the government to try to take over and do it for them. And we're talking right now about what can we do in Japan to help those people, because remember, they came to help us back in 2006, and we think that we can probably find a community in Sendai that's similar to what we have in Lakeview. We also are looking to create a preparedness model to share with communities that are vulnerable to natural disasters, because it happened in New Orleans, it's happened to Japan, and it's going to continue to happen. That's just the way life is when you've got to deal with natural disasters. And we'd like to show this model to other communities who may face this one day to be better prepared. And obviously, part of the reason being here today is to continue that relationship with West Point, hopefully have you all continue to be involved, to advocate the importance of service and the things that we've learned from you that have helped us so much. So I appreciate having the opportunity to share that with you. I can tell you I've never run out of things to talk about at cocktail parties. And the minute anybody says, you're from New Orleans, how did you all make out from the storm? And for the next 15 minutes I can talk to you. So thanks for having the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next part of our ceremony is to give our inductees their awards. And so what I'd like to do is to call out your name, and when I call it out, if you could just come up, Mr. Petrie will hand you a certificate, and you must stay for the picture as well. So make sure you stand in the middle. So the first of those is our own Dr. Bruce E. Keith, who is a professor of sociology here at the United States Military Academy.
Thank you. Okay.
Nice, very nice. Oh, one more. All right.
Thank you.
Hey.
Next is Cadet Sara C. Lehman. USMA 11. Yes, 12. I'm sorry. 12.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Turn off the back. Turn off the noise.
Or just stand to the side.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
There you go.
The next is Cadet Brianna C. Perez. USMA 12.
Very nice.
The next is Cadet Janae E. Bell, USMA 13. And last but not least is Cadet Michael R. Nilsen, USMA Class of 11. And if I could have all the inductees come back up for one more picture. Just with Mr. Petrie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to get in the way.
There you go. Not a problem.
Hey, Janae.
Come on, guys. Get a little,
I'll leave it out there.
I'm kind of leaning over this direction.
all right, you guys want to get a little, closer there?
Act like you like each other just a little bit. Thank you very much. Just two more things before we end this. First of all, there are a couple of things that I have to make. The first is to Dr. Kate Karanges and Major Jason Toole for making all this happen. Thank you very much. And the second is we'd like to just give Mr. Petrie a token of our appreciation. And many of you have seen this. This is the cadet tar bucket, as it's affectionately known by cadets. And this is truly a symbol of what cadet life is really all about. And we hope that this will find a prominent place somewhere to be displayed, not like that, somewhere either in your office or in your home. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Get that thing to stand up straight.
That's the true reason.
And I wonder if we have a couple of other cadets that were with us in New Orleans. So maybe we could get all the cadets around Mr. Petrie and his award. Carry that thing.
Put it on.
Oh, hey. How was the speech coming?
Perfect.
I'll be all right.
Okay, so we just pack that in there.
No, you're not getting out of this.
There you go. It's all right. Packing it just a little bit more. Thank you.
All right, I'm going this way because it's like, are you in
Behind
there?
you.
No, I'm not.
No? All right. All right, ready? Cheese, tar bucket. All right. Very nice.
All right,
Thank you so much. And we do have some small refreshments. We'd like for you to stay around. Please have a piece of cake that you can't leave without taking a piece. You don't have to eat it, but you have to take it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Oh, hello.
I'll get that thing
Congratulations to that Perez.
It's a lot of fun.
Check and see
Okay.
if Colonel Reed is going to be around.
Michael, what are you asking?
Yeah, I would. I'd definitely like to be there, if nothing else, and so yeah, I would love to do that. In fact,
Is this the pinning ceremony?
it is. So you have a commissioning ceremony, and so he'll do his throw his hat up, go back, get in his uniform,
Right.
and we'll all be anxiously waiting for him to show back up to wherever. Where you plan on doing it, by the way?
I don't know yet, sir. Anywhere that's like really close.
Everybody to the left, please.
You should pick some place that's symbolic to you, some place that you like, and everybody else will just show up there. And I think it's really important that you pick some place that's memorable. Because I did mine in the company area with the TAC, and it wasn't very memorable. So pick some place that's memorable.
Hey, MacArthur statue, kid.
MacArthur statue.
Hey, you've been in Mac for a long time.
Crowded there, but still. But just let us know, because between Colonel Reed and I, we've got all the flags. We put together programs, all that kind of stuff for you to hand out to your family and friends and all that kind of stuff. We take care of all that.
Well, you're doing a great job here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mike, take care.
Should have a good one.
Hey, Mike, love you.
All right,
Listen, Sandhurst, can I come on Friday?
Of course you can.
What time?
The mayor is New York City, a bikeable city.
Okay.
So what did you guys do that?
Oh, yeah. And it worked.
Okay, here they are.
Actually paint the lanes?
Guest speaker,
They got so much.
major tool.
Right, so they did it anyway.
We went from being like,
Oh, is this the official coin that you get now for being a member of the society?
Shake hands.
There you go. Okay, there we go.
Handshake right here. This piece right here.
I got it.
There's a coin in there too.
Fantastic.
Someone open a bike, the door across the bike path.
I'm gonna take it.
Wait till you see their
people in cars
prospect
don't
walk.
think
I have it on the.
So you don't